How have you been? Welcome back.
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, since coming back at Multiverse 2 and, last weekend at Emergence, I had hesitations coming back because, coming back from an injury, you always have those things lingering in the back of your mind. But, after getting in at Multiverse 2, I came to the back afterwards and it just felt like I didn't miss a day. So couldn't have gone better.
You know what? That's good because that was going to be my next question. Like, how you feeling after the injury and actually getting in the ring? Did you, before you actually stepped in the ring, did you plan on adjusting anything or did you just kind of wrestle the same way and, just evaluate afterwards?
Yeah, there's obvious movements that involve my tricep that would be more strenuous on it that I planned to avoid. But then once you get in the mix of everything and you just kind of fall into those old habits of how it happened, like they say, it's like riding a bike.
Mhm.
Uh, all those things kind of got thrown to the wayside, and I just ended up doing them anyway, and it felt fine. It was all just the mental hurdles of wanting to avoid these things, being afraid of these things happening again, and as I learned with my neck, like what was it, oof, eight eight years ago now when I came back from my neck injury. You can't really go in with any hesitations and any of those mind blocks in there because you're just going to injure yourself elsewhere. You're going to compromise yourself somehow. So, I just threw it all out there and it's been fine. Rehab and all the steps I needed to. So,
You obviously made an appearance at Slammiversary. Uh, how far in advance did you know like that was going to be the spot to make your on-air comeback?
oh, maybe 72 hours.
Okay.
I knew I was feeling good. I knew I had my appointment with my doctor for the checkup, and he was saying, optimistically, the best was, mid-July, stuff like that. And we, of course, were in early July, and Scott Demore gave me a call a few days before, and he said, "We're going to bring you out here. We're going to do this, this, and this." I had already been training in ring as I,
Mhm.
I moved down here to Windsor. So I've been training in ring. So Scott had seen me in the ring, trying to get some movements out and
Mhm.
see, if I still had it and stuff like that. So I was feeling good. So we were all very confident in that. And obviously we held off another month from any in-ring action. So it kind of gave me that buffer zone there. But yeah, things are good.
You're a Windsor resident now?
Yeah, I moved down to Windsor. We plan on reopening the Can-Am Dojo, which was, the school that Scott's owned operated for the better part of the past 3 decades, in November. So that's all part of it. Plus, it gets me closer to that Detroit airport. And as a Delta guy, I get more direct flights instead of flying from Buffalo to Detroit to connect. So just makes
Yeah.
my life easier.
I the reason I brought it up was I went to SummerSlam. I went or like I was in Detroit and I was sitting by the water. I didn't realize how close the two cities were. Like it's not very far at all. Like I think
Yeah.
somebody was riding like a paddle boat, like you probably could have made it in like a few minutes. So
Yeah. Just a short shot across the river from Detroit to Windsor, man. Yep.
beautiful city too. I hope to go across one day.
Well, we have the BCW 30th anniversary in October. That's a good excuse. Or, Impact Wrestling will surely be returning sometime soon. So,
Uh, and then one more note about the injury. I don't want to say I knew it was coming, but I remember making a comment before the pay-per-view, like that weekend. I was like, does anybody know how long Josh has been out or like what his recovery was? And they're like, I don't know if he'll be back. I'm like, what if he pulls like a Super Cena? Like, what if this has all been like exaggerated? Like, I'm like, this feels like a really good weekend for him to come back. So it ended up happening. Was that not not the come back early stuff, but was that ever like a discussion where you were like, all right, let's give more time in case I need it, but I can come back at a certain point and then it'll be like more of a surprise, anything like that?
well, when I initially got the surgery, it was third week of March. I got the surgery and I flew straight to TVs to, hand over the title belt and all that stuff. The original prognosis from the doctor was, everybody's different. 4 to 8 months is usually the window there, and I was just like that 4 month window of month 4 to month 8
Mm-hmm.
seems really really long. But like Punk recently did the exact same injury as me, tore his tricep, and it took him something like the better part of 8 9 months to come back and stuff like that. But that 4 to 8 month window in there, I just wanted to do as much as I could to make sure it was closer to 4 than it was to 8. And luckily, all I had to do at home was, be a dad with take care of my kids and then go to the gym and do rehab. So, I just dug myself into that as best I could. And Slammiversary being, the big weekend, usually the weekend there's always some sort of surprises. I was really happy to be figured into that and be like one of the marquee surprises for this year to come back. I don't know if it's quite on Super Cena levels, but I was pretty close. I definitely made sure I was closer to that 4 month than I was the 8 month.
Uh, your kid's a shooter, so I don't know if you had it easier at home or not.
I mean, once the cast came off after the first, I think it was like 4 weeks, and I started moving my arm around a little bit more. All the sympathy went out the window for me from my children. So, yeah.
All right, we have two big events coming up for Impact Wrestling. You have Victory Road, is the first one, long-awaited matchup between you and Steve Maclin. This was supposed to be a title match. Unfortunately, both of you guys got injured. You're both back and healthy. Was this the one that you were looking forward to when you got back? Like,
Yeah, well, especially with the way I left when I gave up that championship, and Steve was really the crux in the ring, calling me a coward in front of my son and doing all that stuff. It just ate away at me that I was so looking forward to stepping foot in the ring in Toronto at Rebellion with that world championship, longest reign and all this other stuff, and going one on one with somebody like Maclin, who I've kind of earmarked as the next guy coming up as a homegrown Impact talent, kind of built his way to the top there, and just the two of us finally colliding at Rebellion, and that was obviously taken away, and he went on to win the championship, and that was obviously something that he lost, and then he suffered an injury. So no, both of us coming back here at Victory Road, I know we've both been chomping at the bit for the better part of a few years to get in the ring finally together one on one and show what we can do, because I think that our styles will mesh really well, and we'll have like a really good match. That's something that I have no doubt in. But we both have a chip on our shoulder. We both have something to prove that we can come back and be better than we were before. And this being my first singles match in Impact Wrestling since returning, my first singles match at all since returning from injury, and the same goes for Steve. I think it's gonna be an awesome match. And Victory Road, completely stacked from top to bottom. So just happy to be figured into that card and, to have a marquee matchup as well.
Yeah, absolutely loaded card. I was looking at the lineup after they kind of announced everything so far. Really looking forward to that next weekend. But Impact 1000, obviously, it's a big milestone. Two-part question. Your personal favorite memory from your career that you've had in Impact Wrestling, and a personal favorite moment that you weren't involved in. I'm gonna make you take the title win out of the equation.
Okay, the rebellion title win.
Yes.
Okay. I would have to say, it's kind of a weird answer because we didn't have a crowd at the time, but just finishing out that 65 plus minute match with TJP in front of zero crowd, going the complete distance in that Iron Man match, and then adding the extra time and coming out victorious at the end. I think that will always stand as like one of the star making moments in my career, and one of those ones that I'm most proud of, because it's I'm not going to say it's easy to go out there with a crowd and do a match like that, because it's certainly not, but to go out there with no crowd and to perform at the level we did and to put on a show like that, like I knew it was an opportunity for me to make something of myself. And that thing exceeded both mine and TJP's expectations, and just it was a very emotional night for me after it was all said and done, because you're completely drained in every way possible, physically, mentally, emotionally, all this stuff. And for it to come off as well as it did, that's going to leave a lasting impression on my entire career that I'm always going to run back to. And to answer the second part, something that I was not involved in, it's tough because there's so many. I can pick some from the past 4+ years that I've been in Impact, but as a fan, for me, watching Impact Wrestling since the very beginning, it was like the first time I saw Low Ki, the first time I saw AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, that stuff sticks out in my mind. But the one that holds true is always when Kurt Angle came to the company and he had that first standoff with Samoa Joe. I remember I was chomping at the bit as a fan, as a young pro wrestler first breaking into this business, and that headbutt, and for Samoa Joe to get hard weight and just stand up behind him. That image has left a lasting impression in my mind. And for me, it was like an explosion for Impact Wrestling. And I, as a fan watching, you knew you were seeing something special, and this company was going to like reach heights it had never reached before, just on the backs of these two guys alone, let alone the stacked roster they had.
I will agree. That is definitely one of my personal favorite moments too. In closing, I will say thank you for your time today. Best of luck next weekend and to 1,000 more episodes.
Yeah, man, 1,000 more episodes. Thanks so much for having me. And it's always good to talk anytime, Bill.